You're watching TVC Breakfast. Let's get into our last discussion of the day. Days after the story of the controversial death of a student of Dowen College, Sylvester Oromoni, more information about how he allegedly refused to join a cult group went viral on social media. Educationists are of the view that there is need for more counselors and parental care to guide students. Senior correspondent Sharon Jason has the story.
There have been several reports indicating poor behavioral patterns among young children. These range from students beating up teachers to reports of gangsterism and cultism. The controversial death of a student of Dowen College, Lekki in Lagos is attracting widespread outrage. Though the Lagos state government has sealed off the school over the death of 12-year-old Sylvester, reactions continue to trail the sad development. I met a guidance and counseling practitioner in Lagos. She's concerned about the trend of poor parenting skills, but added that every school should ensure creation of a guidance and counseling department.
A lot of parents have failed because some of them don't even have time for their children. Even when these children are going through abuses, their children don't have listening ear. They don't even want to listen to say the child wants to tell them something. They say, well, I don't have time. I don't have time. Charity begins from home. Once the child does not get the right values from home, it come out to exhibit the wrong behaviors. But if you get the correct values from home, it exhibit the right behavior when it gets outside.
Many laxity in the society because of the maybe basically economic reason and nonchalant attitude. But the counselors have a lot of way and they are playing it.
Many people consider Sylvester's death as one of the disheartening deaths resulting from bullying and molestation in boarding schools lately. Karen Apuch of Premier Academic Lugbe, Abuja, died of sexual molestation in June 2021, while Don Davis of Deeper Life High School, Uyo, narrowly escaped death in December 2020 when his mother raised an alarm over alleged sodomy of her emaciated son.
I think we've lost our values generally, and what we're seeing is the children picking up on us. It's not what you say, it's what you do. We see bad behavior rewarded, we see corruption rewarded, we don't see hard work rewarded. We see a lot of psychophancy. So it's the message is be loud, make noise. It's the survival of the fittest, sort of. I think the onus is on the adults a lot. When a child starts to be afraid to go to school, a child is saying things, we shouldn't just say he's lazy. I think we should ask a little bit more. When they change behavior, a formerly happy child is no longer that happy. Who was doing well is no longer doing well. You don't just start dealing with the symptom of he's not doing well. You start to ask what's going on.
All right, that's the foundation of part of what we'll be talking about right now. And joining me to make sense of this development and trending story is the founder, Mama Hill Montessori School in Lagos, Ochuko Prudence Daniels. It's nice to have you join me. Good morning.
It's my pleasure.
You're welcome.
Good morning.
Great. And I also have in the studio the director, La Posh School, Ronke Posh Adeni. It's nice to have you join me poshly in the studio.
Good morning. Thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome.
I've missed you.
Yeah, exactly. It's a long time now, but it's good to have you back in studio.
Thank you.
Now, I'm going to ask both of you, the case with Sylvester is a very painful one, not just as a parent, not just as a school proprietor when it overseeing children, but to all of us as Nigerians and all of that. I'm going to ask both of you how you felt when you heard that story. That story is just one out of so many others that we may not have heard about. But let me start with you.
I wept. It was terrible. Just 2 weeks prior to that, I had spoken on Instagram repeatedly about bullying because a child, Tiara James, had committed suicide as a result of bullying. So I was so moved. I wrote an ebook, I sent it out free, and the next thing I heard about this, I wept. It is heart-wrenching.
How about you, Prudence?
I personally broke down first. And then I began to think that we really need to overhaul our value systems. Yeah, because this is parenting at play, both for the perpetrators and for the victim. Yeah, so we need to start from scratch. Where do we draw the line? How do we empower our children to stand against bullying? How do we tell as parents if our child is in danger or not? So this comes back home to us in our parenting. So I think we really need to go back to the grassroots.
All right. If you listen to the report we played earlier on, most of the respondents were talking about the issue of parenting and everything starting from the home. But let's come back home from where everything starts from. What is that value that parents are supposed to be putting in their children to make them civilized when they go out and engage with others that is lacking? What is that thing?
I mean, there are many things, but let's just even talk about the basic empathy, even a self-esteem, having time for your children, the values, the 5 key magic words, please, thank you, just simple things. Let's start from there before we even move to advanced things. Those things should be happening in the home, and the way that the parents also deal with their children. So your child doesn't want to do X, Y, or Z. You have to shout at the top of your voice. You have to hit. You have to call that child names. That child will go out and they will manifest the same thing and do much more than you are doing. So in the home, those basic skills should be taught, and also living together, respecting one another. All those should be happening in the home.
All right, now, Chuku, the issue there is parents are really busy. And if parents are going to hustle and work out there and bring out the money, no one's going to blame them. But that is taking a toll on the children when it comes to attention on the children. I remember growing up where my mom and dad at different times will go to my room, check everything I had, just to have an idea of what this boy has and what this boy is doing, or maybe what he's keeping and stuff like that. I didn't understand at that time, but being a parent now, I have a better understanding why my parents will go to the room, check everything, check my wardrobe, check my, as the case may be. But parents don't have that time anymore. How do we balance this?
Okay, so it has to do with values as well. The popular story that trended about a little girl whose mother would lock up the room because she had a lot of jewelry in the room, and left the girl to the house help. And the girl came up and said, why would you leave me to the house help and you can't leave your jewelry to the house help? So it's about value. What values do you place in your children? How do you rate them? So we need to come together to agree. Families need to strike a balance by determining what is most important and putting their resources where that is. Because going to work, you work, and then now, for example, Sylvester is gone. Whatever the parents were laboring for to help on him, it's gone to waste. So we need to define what exactly is important, and then we need to also juggle both, like the man and the woman. Africa in general, Nigeria, we have these values of making it a woman's job, but the trends are changing. So we need to come together. If dad is free in the afternoon, would you pick the children from school? Would you look after them? Would you do homework with them? And then I'd like to say something. If your child is afraid of you, there's a problem there. Because he won't be able to speak to you if he's in trouble. So we need to first, from the home front, gain the confidence and trust of our children to be able to help them when they're in trouble. Because in Sylvester's case...
How is that different? I totally understand, but how is that different? Growing up, we used to be very scared of our daddies that time.
Yeah,
because the issue there is that daddy is so revered up there that you can't say some things, you can't allow him see some things. You rather speak to mom because mom is softer, mom is approachable, mom is okay, and all of that. But how do we balance that?
It's still the same.
Okay.
Except that opportunities are more now. Children have access to the world, which we didn't have before. Every information we received as children, we received from either our children or the media or older people in the society or the school. But today, children have access to the world. If a child wanted to write a letter to the president of any country, they could do that. They could access anything. So we really need to embrace the now and begin to work with what is going on.
Okay. Ronke, let me come to you on this. I recall several times having you on the program where we talked about the issue of checks and balances within the school. And there was a time you give us a picture of some of the kinds of checks and balances within school to ensure that some things don't happen. In a situation like Sylvester's case, some people say, well, this is not the first time it's happening. It could have been happening, you know, it was just the last straw. Talk to us about some of the checks and balances that should be in place in schools where these things can be detected on time before it gets to this situation, this level. Okay,
keeping it simple. In a boarding house, I went to boarding school, and
I did too.
So I went to boarding school, and I can remember Miti Obasa. I was in Obasa house, and I can remember her. Bless her, she was there. In fact, her home or flat was just right next to us, and she used to patrol. You know, that was already a check and balance. There were teachers and staff all around that go around and check.
Keeping an eye
on what was going on in the school. That was already happening. So they didn't just leave us. Now, you find that in cases now, you find that boarding house masters, mistresses teach during the daytime, and then they are supposed to go and look after the children in the boarding area later on. After they've taught all day, they've marked all day, they are tired, then they will go and teach the children. So someone that's already spent needs, what are they going to do? They're going to sleep. They're not going to hear anything that is happening. Do you know
they're tired already.
They're tired already. And even if they do, they're like, please, these children, because they're already tired. So we need to ensure that whoever is doing the boarding house work is only doing that boarding house work.
He's dedicated to it.
He is dedicated. There should be systems in place. At this time to this time, what is happening? What happens to the doors? Who checks? Do you understand? Who checks? Why are people moving around at a particular time? We used to have what they call lights out when we were in QC.
Exactly.
You can't even dare move out, you know, because these so-called boys came to that dormitory, that room, to meet Sylvester where he was. So when they were moving around, who knew? Are these children given free access to do anything that they want? Are they spoken to about bullying? What are what happens? What are the consequences when they do things like that? What is the feedback mechanism when things are happening like that? You know, because if a boy is being bullied and he's talking, friends will know about it. So what are we telling our children? If they see it, they should look away. You know, we have a culture of maintain your lane now. So exactly. friends are not saying anything. Seniors are not saying anything. Teachers are not saying anything. Because the teacher will have seen now. You will know the countenance of your child in the classroom that something is happening. Then every other person would have seen, and nobody will say anything. Even if the system is not even 100%, you would have seen that somebody is not 100%, and somebody should have cared enough to say what is going on. Even preschoolers, when we see that and they're already unhappy in our school, and like, what is the matter? When they come in the morning, you know, oh, I didn't eat my breakfast, mommy shouted at me. You should be able to, because they're not teaching or learning without a relationship. You must have a relationship with the children in your class.
Teaching and learning with the relationship.
Yes. So that must be happening. So systems must be in place. So what I sense is that there were no systems in place, and even there's a culture already. It's already out there. There's a culture already that this sort of thing happens. It's normal. It has been normalized in that environment. I mean, my ears are full from the things that I've heard, but it's unfortunate. I mean, it's good that people are speaking now. Please continue to speak up. But it's unfortunate because if people had spoken up earlier, Sylvester would still be here today. Yes.
All right. Now, there is a talk on the issue of counselors within schools where a situation happens, either a child is bullied, the child is supposed to open, like she's saying, speak up. There are counselors that you can meet and all of that. Because at the point of bullying, some children are already traumatized at that point.
True.
So it's not just about reporting the bully to say, okay, he did this or he did that. Because some people are already, they don't have what it takes to, you know, absorb some of these things. So talk to us from the window of counselors. What role do they play, and how impactful can their presence be in a situation like this?
Well, they can be very useful. Ronke did mention something about self-esteem.
Yeah.
A child who is not confident will not go to a counselor. So I still drive it back home to what kind of children are we raising, and how much empowerment do they have to be able to stand for themselves. I hear parents say, if they beat you, beat them back. I mean, that's not what it is. She also mentioned empathy. So we should overhaul our value systems and let our children know what is right, what is wrong, and for them to stand for what is right. For example, there were children or students in that scene. Every one of them were shut up because they were scared. So they won't go to counselors if the system is not okay. It's just like something happens out there, they're afraid to even tell their parents. You know, so we need to first start with ourselves. We must be able to give our children trust to embrace us and tell us, Mom, I'm in trouble. Dad, something happened.
So that relationship is very important. That was what Ronke was talking about earlier.
For counseling, once a child is confident enough to go to a counselor, another thing that we should bear is counselors should treat every case respectfully, because when you betray children, they'll never come to you again. For example, you report today and then the next thing is blown out and the child is embarrassed. They won't come to you anymore. So counselors need to actually own their onions. As counselors, they should be able to treat our children professionally. You know, I went to a counselor once. I was disappointed even as an adult, let alone children. So it still boils back down to our value system. We need to overhaul these things and work like we really want to make these things work. And we need to start with ourselves first as individuals. How do you treat your next door neighbor or your colleague at work? How do you handle children in general when you see them playing, even though they are not your child? Mind your business. No.
All right, let's just in 1 minute, let's talk about the issue of early signs where you notice this child that used to be bubbly and all of that is no longer the way he used to or she used to be. Could those be signs of the fact that something is wrong somewhere?
Definitely.
All right.
I mean, as a teacher in the classroom, or a parent with your child, once you see changes in your child, you need to observe. I tell parents should have a journal for each child and run their families like a business. For each child, you must know exactly, you're tracking everything that is happening. Your child comes home, is not really talking again. Your child comes home, wants to be in the room. Your child is overeating. Your child is undereating. Your child is snapping or being rude or withdrawn. Character traits that are different. Losing weight, gaining weight. What are those things that you are observing in your child? You must know. As a teacher, you must know that this child's grades are dropping. This child's handwriting has changed. This girl is not focused, always thinking about something else in the classroom. You must know these things if you care. Because you can't be a teacher if you don't love the children in your class. They will not learn. Learning is state dependent. Teachers must know and ensure that they know every child in their class. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, we have classes of 20, 30, 40, 50, 150. There are too many in the classroom. How can one person or two people know everything about all those children in the classroom? They will miss it because they are human beings. So we need that ratio to come down, and we need to know the signs. The minute things start changing, scars or bruises, I don't want to go to the playground, I want to stay in the classroom, they're isolating themselves, all sorts of things. Know that there is something wrong. Do you want to talk to me? You don't just say, oh, that what they did to you, it's normal, be a big boy. Yeah, that's normal. It's a normal thing. Because we normalize violence. The same way that we say, spare the rod, and we beat our children.
Oh, yeah.
We've normalized violence.
We've not known how to balance that biblical thing. Yeah. But we have to leave you here now. Ronke Posh Adeni, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
And Ochuku, nice to have you join me as well. Thank you so much for being here. We look forward to seeing more of you on the program.
Sure.
All right. Thank you.